This is Joel Rerko from Seven Springs Mountain Resort, and you're listening to the Not Snowboarding Podcast.
Dude, I had such a sick POW day. I can't wait to get inside and... Oh, my brand new Travis Rice! I'll never be like Travis! How am I going to double cork like this? This happens all the time when I put my board against the wall, hoping that it won't fall. I wish I had something that would hold my board so it didn't always fall over.
Hey, what's up, AJ?
Nate, what are you doing here?
I heard that you were having board storage problems, and I came to give you the solution.
Anything. I'm so clumsy, and this happens to me all the time. I swear I've broken a surfboard like this.
Man, don't stress any longer. Rado Racks is here to help you.
Actually, it was your surfboard.
Wait, what? My board?
What's Rado Racks?
Rado Racks are wall and floor-mounted racks designed to store your snowboards, skateboards, stand-up paddleboards, poles, bikes, and whatever else you can hang on them. But about that surfboard...
Say no more.
I will anyways. Rado Racks are handcrafted in Colorado with the highest quality materials and come with a lifetime warranty. Prices start for as low as $50.
Shut up and take my money.
Right now, for the Not Snowboarding Podcast listeners, Rado Racks is offering a special deal. Use the discount code TNSP and you'll get free shipping in the United States.
I just bought 3.
Rado will also throw in a t-shirt while supplies last.
I just tripped 5 people and pushed my way to the front of the line.
Man, AJ, why did you do that? All you had to do was go to radoracks.com.
Would you just check out that rack? Hey, not cool. I'm just talking about Rado Racks, baby.
As a young lad growing up during the turn of the century under British rule in my homeland of India, I dreamed of one day living free from the oppression of a foreign country and riding the best half-pipe on my snowboard. Eventually, Britain left India, and I left my home in search of a shreddable pipe. I found myself in Pennsylvania, living across the street from a pretty decent half-pipe. I have fond memories of sending it from the carved-out highways and the transitions until, sadly, the mountain filled the stunt ditch in with earth and made it into a driving range for their golf course. My world was crushed until I was struck with a beam of light hailing from the west, western Pennsylvania to be exact. Tucked away in the Allegheny Mountains, just 60 miles from the beautiful Yinzers of Pittsburg, exists a sanctuary to those looking to get extreme. Seven Springs Mountain Resort came into my life when I needed it most. Boasting 7 terrain parks with 70-plus features, including a totally groundbreaking hiking area called The Streets, and the East's only 22-foot Superpipe. I've been doing the 3-hour trek from my house to Seven Springs consistently for the past 6 years, and it's worth every second of drive time just to ride one of the best parks in the world. Living in the spot Terrain Park resides, my precious. The number 1 Superpipe in the country, according to an informal survey I conducted after riding in the resort's bar, called the Foggy Goggle. The incredible submarine holder was the answer to my prayers as a boy, dreaming of a better, more radical world. I'd spend all day lapping the Superpipe with my geriatric acquaintance, Paul Horning. On a good day, with a little luck, Paul would get a decent enough frontside in the air until local pro rider and rally driver Jon Kramer came through to fill his noon quota, and to coach Paul on how to really lock in his tindy grabs and tail fishes. Seriously though, I can't thank Seven Springs Mountain Resort enough for building such an amazing parks program and a rad community around the mountain. Nothing compares, nothing comes close. Seven Springs is truly in a league of their own. If you've tuned in to the last couple of episodes, you know that we're coordinating a trip for the podcast listeners to Seven Springs on February 24th through the 26th. I think we're going to make this an annual thing and call it TNSP Camp. I have a house reserved on the mountain, just a short walk from one of the chairs. AJ's coming out, and it looks like we have a large contingent of folks from Michigan signed up as well. AJ and I have been bouncing ideas around for different activities. I'm going to bring a bunch of vintage snowboards for folks to ride. We're thinking a movie night, Cards Against Humanity, maybe some morning yoga. Who knows? We'll see if we have time. Anyways, we have 3 spots left as it stands right now. If you're interested, shoot me an email at nate@shredsouls.com and I'll add you to the list, and I'll send you the pricing breakdown as soon as it's available as well. If you can't make it to TNSP Camp but want to check out Springs, I recommend their Rails to Rails lodging package. Starting at $142 per person per night, the package includes 1 night's lodging, a limited edition Seven Springs Parks and Pipes t-shirt, unlimited snowboarding at Springs from 4 p.m. on the day of your arrival until closing the day you check out, breakfast each morning, overnight snowboard check, access to the indoor swimming pool and fitness center. For more information or to make your reservations, please call Seven Springs at 866-437-1300. So Paul and I trucked it up to Joel's office at the bottom of Seven Springs to talk with Joel about park building, carving his own path in the industry, motorcycle racing, the surfing scene in Pittsburg, Laurel Mountain, and AJ's tarnished employment history. Let's get into the episode with the Director of Mountain Operations at Seven Springs, Joel Rerko. Sitting up at Seven Springs, right next to the Ski Patrol office with Joel and Paul, and we've got AJ on Skype here, and turns out the Ski Patrol office is not where it was in the 90s. Roughly what time do you think it moved, Joel? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I have no clue. It was before my time.
I was out random, so I never made it down here.
It's too funny. When did your time start with Seven Springs?
This is my 8th winter here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you start? What was your role then?
Whenever I started at the resort.
Yeah.
Well, I was here after high school, through college, off and on, for like 3 winters. I worked at Willie's for. I moved here. I was supposed to move to Vermont to work at Killington on park staff. The job fell through. So one of an acquaintance said, "Hey, I moved to Seven Springs every year. I can get you a job." So in the winter, after I graduated high school, I came here, worked at Willie's for, I want to say 7 days.
And Willie's is a retail shop.
Yes. Yeah. Willie's is our retail shop, or the retail shop. Worked there for about 7 days and just really wanted to be outside. So met a friend of a friend again, this guy Tim Easley, who at that time they were called Safety Rangers, and the park staff was part of Safety Rangers because they really didn't have a dedicated department for park staff.
Okay.
So he hired me to work night shift for a terrain park. That was in 1999,
And
98.
What was your stance on leashes at that point?
My stance was I've never used a leash. I don't think.
What?
I think the only time I've ever used it. I don't think the only time I've ever used a leash was at, I think, Liberty Mountain it would have been like 96, 97. I was there for an event, a USASA event, and the patroller wouldn't let us go up without a leash. So I like ran back to the car and grabbed a shoelace and like made something work.
If it was 97, I was working that event.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I used to work.
It would have been 96 or 97.
Tony Lincoln and Kathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
crazy.
That event.
It's crazy to me, like
the
mountains, like because I remember mountains like requiring leashes on snowboards, but they didn't require them on skis. And I remember like skiers, like their brakes would always be broken or whatever, like the thing that stops the ski. And I'd see skis go down like torpedoes, and I'm like, well, why don't they have leashes? You know?
Well, Springs was never one of those mountains that I remember, and I've been riding here since I started, I guess, like 89, 90, and I don't think I can ever recall not being let up a lift at Springs for not having a leash. I remember they say that you should have one, but I don't think I ever got like busted for not having one like you did at other local mountains. I don't know.
Well, that's why I asked, because in the 90s when I first rode here, Springs was one of the first mountains that I rode when I moved out here. And that was the big thing, is they were like checking for leashes before you got on the snow. And then they would check you again for a leash on the backside. But to Paul's point, they would let you get away with taking your bootlace and wrapping that around your binding.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when it came time to unstrap, it took you 20 minutes to get your bootlace back up.
I've worked in this. So I've worked at ski resorts since 98. And the only snowboards I've ever seen going down a hill like runaway boards. No, I shouldn't say that. I have seen other ones. I was going to say, I would say 90% of the time they're rental boards and they have a leash attached to them that's just flapping in the wind.
Yeah. It's usually somebody that unstrapped and they're walking, holding it, and they drop it.
Yeah.
I worked at some resorts when I was younger.
Yeah. I've never seen a snowboard fall off of someone's feet.
Right.
I think that's
someone told me once you're supposed to like wear the leash while you're hiking, but I don't understand how that works. Like, how do you walk?
I think you should figure that out, AJ.
Huh?
Just start a new trend.
Yeah, you should start a new trend.
A new trend, dude. You never know. I've been saying for years capes are going to be trending, and the tall tee movement was kind of like that.
Just drag it behind your, don't even pick the snowboard up whenever you're hiking. Just drag it behind you with the leash. So, leave it attached to your foot.
Just wrap it around my waist and drag it from there. They had a big, rope.
So this was always the mountain that I would come to if I had a full day to spend or had the money to come out here. Because it's, it was a 3-hour drive from where we live, from like Frederick, Maryland area, 2.5, 3 hours. But the thing about Springs has always been they've always catered to snowboarding way more than any other mountain in the Mid-Atlantic. I remember riding here in the early 90s, and there were perfectly cut quarter pipes. Every time I come in here with the Mid-Atlantic Snowboard Series, the pipes were always cut way better than anywhere else. And it seems like ever since you've come on board, that it blew up 10 times that. And now the terrain is even 10 times better than it was. Now back then you easily competed in the Mid-Atlantic and were really the best mountain back then. Now it's at in my opinion, a kind of a world-class snowboard destination. I mean, it seems like you guys are really in it to see people progress, to hold fun events, and to, I don't know, it's awesome. It's nice to have a place like this. We used to have to go to Vermont. Anytime we wanted to ride fun stuff, a good Superpipe, or even a good pipe, or good park jumps, you had to drive 8-9 hours to Vermont. Now, it's nice. We can drive 2.5 hours to Seven Springs. And you don't have to spend the whole weekend driving. So what was when you came to Springs, what were the hurdles you had to get that type of stuff to happen, to get those events here, to get the parks up to that level? Because I've worked with many park staffs. I've worked at many mountains where they always use the insurance excuse. And we actually built a skate ramp at one of our local mountains back in the day. And when we looked into the insurance basically covered pretty much everything but airplanes landing there and, believe it or not, snow play, like snowball fights. They were saying that wasn't covered under the insurance. So
snow play sounds more it sounds different than just snowball fights to me.
Right. Well, it's snow play, but you'd figure a ski resort would snow play.
They would have that written in their coverage.
But how do you, if all these other mountains are using the insurance excuse or whatever that we can't build bigger jumps or, how do you get by that? I mean,
insurance wise, I don't really, that's probably just I would assume it's a cop out. I don't work for them, so I don't see their insurance policies, but I'm assuming it's just them, it's not having the commitment from the top down.
Right. For any listeners that don't live in the Mid-Atlantic, for what Seven Springs does, what they build here is amazing. I mean, the amount of snow they're able to put down, the size of the different features and jumps and the Superpipe, it's really amazing because it gets pretty cold here, but it's short-lived. So the amount of snow that you guys can put down in a short amount of time and open things. I mean, last year was the worst winter I can remember for a long time. I did not think the Superpipe was opening. You guys opened it. It was amazing. It was a super fun Superpipe.
We were talking on the way up, and I was saying, it's always a concern of ours. It's one of the main reasons that I'm able to continue to live in this area is because it is so fun here. And if there was ever a winter that the Superpipe deserved to not be open, it was this winter. I would have been okay with it. I wouldn't have been psyched, but
yeah. I mean, we had a lot of discussions about, should we commit the snowmaking to it? And, do we just move forward with building the spot as this really fun park? Maybe we talked about putting a 13-foot pipe over there, or, doing a big 22-foot cord at the bottom, but just not committing that time to it, and the resources. And I would say a day before we were ready to commit to that, the long range forecast just switched completely. And at that point we had the rest of the mountain open. So the snowmaking was just dedicated to that and building base on the rest of the slopes and trails. And we saw a month of good weather. And at that point, we're just, we just said go. We made it happen.
Yeah, and it's good. It's good to see that you guys are putting your park staff and what you guys put into the park staff is awesome. I mean, I know a lot of the guys on the park staff, and all of them really take pride in what they do. They want to see the best setup. They want to keep the features super clean. So it's good to see that the company and the mountain is willing to put all that into snowboarding. And I guess freestyle skiing too, but I generally see snowboarders using this stuff. So it's amazing. It's still amazing to me to this day. And every day I ride here, I'm riding like it's my last chance to ride a Superpipe here or good jumps here, because all the other local mountains, I just feel like at any time that rug could be pulled out from under our feet, and then we're stuck riding takeoffs with no landings and blowing out knees left and right. And so,
I think whenever I was hired back at this resort, I think I was hired back as assistant terrain park manager, but essentially building the parks. They were 2 years prior, the resort was sold to new ownership. And that the owner from the top down, they saw this as an opportunity to really engage the youth, embrace snowboarding and skiing and that youth culture. They saw terrain parks as a way to do that, which was, for the time, not a lot of resorts weren't thinking that way. And our owners, our CEO, like literally from the top of this resort down, they've really embraced terrain parks as putting our name on the map. And, there was lots of hurdles to get us to the point where we were. But probably 2 years after I was here is whenever it really started to kind of take off. I think they saw some success with what we were doing, the group of us, terrain park staff. At that point, I think I was terrain park manager. The manager had left. They saw some success with what we were doing, and they really let us, they allowed us to start to buy the equipment that we needed, because they saw that we could succeed given the right tools and given the right staff. And they also saw that we were doing it in a very professional way. A lot of resorts and a lot of terrain park managers it's a fun job, and it's really cool to go out and build this stuff, but you also have to plan what you're building. You have to make sure that it's safe. You have to log what you do to it every day, whether it's in a snowcat or with a rake or a shovel. I mean, AJ can tell you this. He's worked for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you do it right, it's a science.
Yeah.
that was like, there's a lot of work that goes into it, and it is rad. But I remember seeing an interview or reading an interview with you saying having like a good terrain park is like an equalizer. You can't add mountain, you can't add 1,000 feet of vertical or whatever. But you can build a really cool park and something fun that it doesn't rely on snow necessarily, like a powder, let's say. And you can have a lot of fun for a long time. And yeah, I think that's super rad to think about.
We're never going to grow.
Like Seven Springs can put a lot of effort into something and really stand out, especially in the area. And then worldwide. There's no other mountain in the area on the East Coast that competes with the park. Even the half pipe. I went to Colorado one year and I rode their pipe. I rode Seven Springs pipe, and I'm like, man, this is really good. I can't wait to go to Colorado and check out their pipes. And when I got there, I was like, oh, I want to go back to Seven Springs.
Yeah. And I tell you,
the pipe is better at Seven Springs.
Well, yeah, and the amazing thing about the Superpipe here, I remember the first time I rode it. I hadn't ridden really many Superpipes before that, but was the pitch it's on
Steep.
You try to go slow, and you're still probably going to go head high. Where Vail's super fun resort. I love it. Every time I go to Colorado, try to ride it. You get out there, and that pipe, it seems flat compared to here. I remember I struggled with speed there compared to here. Here, you could pretty much drop in without any speed, just stand there and drop in and still air out and probably go head high. I mean, the pitch, it seems like that the slope that the spot's on is a perfect pitch for a super pipe, for those, the jumps you guys build and the different features there. It really works. I mean, you guys have done a really good job with making use of the natural terrain you're given. So,
yeah. So, I mean, I guess jumping back real quick into what AJ said, like, I've said that for years, and our owners said it, our CEOs said it. We're never gonna, Seven Springs is never gonna grow 1,000 feet vertical or get awesome tree lines and cliff drops and be a Vail or a Breckenridge. But what we can do is there's no reason why our terrain parks can't be as good as anyone else's in the country. Right. There's zero reason why. When's this airing?
December 1st-ish.
Oh, all right, cool. So like this year, this is the first year, like we've gotten number one park on the East Coast for years. And that, from the time I came here, that was my goal. We're going to have the best parks on the East Coast. And I don't know how many years ago we got number one park on the East Coast, according to Transworld. And literally in my interview from that, I was like, yeah, that's great. We should have been in top 10 in the country because I know how good our park is. Yeah. And the guy I can't remember who was interviewing me from Transworld, but he was kind of taken back by it. And I was like, no, like, we should have been in top 10. Like, I don't know how this goes, but we should have been top 10. And this year we got number one park, Transworld on the East Coast, and we got number 6 in the country, which is awesome. Nice. It's like the first time we got that. And then new schoolers, which you guys don't care about because you're snowboarders, but new schoolers. Yeah,
it's a group of skiers, right?
Yeah,
it's a crew kind of, and they're a bunch of ripping free skier dudes, right?
No, it's like a forum.
Okay, sorry. I thought I knew
somewhat, but
I sprayed them.
But in that we got ranked number one park on the East Coast and I think number 7 in the country. Which was awesome for us to get that ranking. Like that meant so much to me just for us to like get nationally ranked. Like, to have, I mean, we beat, I don't know who, I don't have it in front of me, but like, I think we beat Park City.
Wow. Yeah.
For us, Park Sticky. That's what everybody knows it as.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see you guys getting those acknowledgments though, because for my whole life of snowboarding, Seven Springs has always been a good place to snowboard. Now it's an amazing place to snowboard. And I haven't been a ton of places, but I've been quite a few places in Colorado, Southern California, and up north, Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire, stuff like that. But the effort and time you guys put into everything, it still blows my mind on a daily basis that it's actually in the Mid-Atlantic. If you're in DC or Baltimore, you can get here in a couple hours and you've got world-class terrain to ride. It's awesome, man. You guys
thank you very much. I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's cool to hear people say that.
Let's back up to when you were working at Springs the first time. You mentioned that there was a point, I think, when you went out west and then came back, but let's kind of pick up from where you were working at Springs the first time and kind of what you thought the plan for yourself was here and kind of what happened, what transpired.
So at that point, I was working in the skateboarding industry, trying to go to college. I worked for Penswood Manufacturing, which presses skateboard decks out of like Franklin.
Joe there?
Yeah,
Joe. Yeah. So they press for like, was it Cockfight Skateboards and Shipyard and is it Scumtoe and Sons?
Yeah. I mean, the list goes on.
That's cool.
Like, I've worked for Joe since I think I was 14, and Joe ran a screen printing company. Like, I grew up in that town in Oil City, Franklin. Wow. I think I was 14, and Joe had a screen printing, Scribble Design screen printing, which like screen printed T-shirts in downtown for like bands and high school cheerleaders and football teams. Nice. And he had like 3 floors above, he had a old ballroom that his landlord let him put a skate park in. And then he started pressing boards. And yeah, I think I was 14 or 15 and I started like gluing skateboard decks together for him.
Wow.
Whoa.
So I
the plies, putting the
yeah, we didn't have hydraulic presses. We actually had like pump jack presses.
Oh wow! Yeah.
So it was terrible to press skateboards back then. So
how would you do it? You would take the plies and then slather glue or
Joe he would like hand make the molds for the skateboards out of like car putty and some different materials, and then you laminate the boards together. At that point, we were using a roller for like a paint roller with glue on it. But so I did that from the time I was 14 or 15 until, I worked for Joe probably until I was like mid 20s. And then did this in the winter, went to college. I was really into skateboarding at the time, and snowboarding was just kind of what I did in the winter because I couldn't air 5 feet out of a vert ramp, but strap a snowboard to my feet, and I could. So I was pretty much pretending I was skateboarding the entire time I was snowboarding.
That's what we all want to do.
Yeah.
I think Nate wants to surf.
Well, me too. But
This is true.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I would ride the Superpipe, 22-foot wave.
So did that, and I just kind of got more into snowboarding. Then started working construction in the summer to pay for moving to Colorado. Moved to Colorado. I was there for almost 5 years. Worked at Keystone in Colorado.
When you worked at Keystone, were you grooming there? Like when was the first time you got into a groomer?
The first time I got into a snowcat was at Snow Zone in Pittsburg.
Oh, that's a golf course spot?
That's what I thought.
No,
That was my first
Snow Zone was the guy that Jim Schultz, he runs Boyce Park now, a little ski resort.
I've
heard
of Monroeville.
At the skate park.
Yes, yeah, the park. Yeah, they have a little it's a public owned ski resort, but he runs that. He was trying to open up a tubing / terrain park. Like headboard shop was involved.
Andy.
Yeah. And I worked there for one winter, and I made snow for him and pretty much did anything he needed to do. I think it was a short winter. It was like 2-3 months, but that was the first time I ran a snowcat. And then I was in cats a lot at Seven Springs. Cause at that point it was, you hopped in with this 50-year-old crusty guy that didn't know anything about terrain parks and tried to
in the summer, right?
Yeah. And tried to explain to him how to shape something.
Yeah.
And it worked. It wasn't the most effective way to do it, but I can understand why they wouldn't want to put me as a 18-year-old kid behind the sticks of a $300,000 machine. Mm-hmm. So did that. I moved to Colorado with very little experience in a snowcat. Worked hand crew at Keystone 1 year. And then the next year got into a snowcat out there. So like 4 years out there. And Keystone at the time was a cool resort. And the park, they were really focusing on the park, but they just weren't Breck. Breck was kind of the mecca.
Right, sure.
But they wanted to beat Breck.
Well, like Breck had the scene. That's where all the pros would ride.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So we, like that, probably my first year in a cat there, we did well. We did a lot of photo shoots, but mostly like ski photo shoots, did some cool stuff and started to get a little noticed. And then we hired this guy, Elliot Cohn from Breck. He'd built the jumps at Breck forever. We hired Elliot he was park manager, but he was basically head builder. And he also worked with Snowpark Technologies, building like X Games and Dew Tour and all the events of that time. I don't know if they did Grand Prix, but they did a lot of events. So Elliot came over, and Elliot and I hit it off pretty well, and he kind of like took me under his wing and really taught me how to build a good jump. And, you know, the rail side I kind of had, because I think I really tried to build everything like a little mini skate park was kind of my goal. Like, you know, from skateboarding, it was rails and transition, like smaller transition was easy. But really truly like grading a 70-foot jump.
It's a whole different scale.
It's just a different scale. Like the grading has to be perfect in between, because if the grading isn't perfect in between, then you're either going to overshoot the jump or undershoot the jump, or
compression's going to be too much.
Yeah. There's a lot to it that, whenever putting rails in, you don't look at all of those things quite as, because you're not going as fast.
Yeah.
So worked with Elliot for a couple years, and he pretty much taught me how to build. Like, I definitely give that guy credit. I mean, he's still doing it now. He's full-time with SPT, still probably one of the best jump builders in the world.
So how did Seven Springs, because you guys are kind of an SPT mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Was that something that you guys brought them in as a consultant, or you guys sent people for training with them? Like how did you guys get involved, and how did Snowpark Technologies get involved?
I think it's just you print a sticker off a die cut machine. Got it.
Oh, okay.
So the year that I was hired here, this resort, as I said, it changed hands, and they really wanted to grow the terrain parks. They brought in SPT as a consultant before I was here, because I had a relationship with Elliot. Elliot had left Keystone at the time and was going to work for SPT full time. And at that point in my life, I kind of thought, man, that's what I want to do. I want to travel, build rad jumps, and run a tractor. Like, just that's what I'm going to do. Elliot, talking with him, he's like, we just signed on as a consultant with Seven Springs. They're looking for some experienced builders. Like, I think it'd be a great fit for you. It would kind of help open the door with SPT. It would really get you in with SPT more to start working these events. If you show that you're going to Seven Springs, I know it's your hometown, essentially, because at that point I'd been coming back here in the summers and working construction. So that's how I came back here. SPT, man, they do a lot for us. They help us with training, especially in the early years. They have like a manager's retreat that I send Joe to every year, where they bring in presenters, people important in the industry. They helped us professionalize the staff a lot. And they gave us the tools to do that successfly.
What are some of those things when you say professionalize the staff? I'm just picturing like jackets that are all the same or something.
That, but taking it beyond that to, explaining to the staff that, like, okay, yeah, we're all kind of the cool kids at the resort. I hate to use that, but that's the way we see ourselves and other people see ourselves. But like, whenever you get on a lift with a kid with a rental board that can't snowboard at all, like, talk to him about the terrain park. Like, don't be the cool guy on the lift. Like,
cool guy.
Like, talk to the kid. If you see a kid in the park, like,
hey, fucking nerd. I feel like be hyped on him.
Yeah, like, you see that kid like trying the first board slide ever on a box in a park. Like, go up and talk to the kid. Like, that's the future of our sport, is like keeping those kids involved and keeping those kids
off skis
into it.
That was a big thing whenever I went anywhere else. Like, I remember sitting in the SGT meetings and stuff, and like kind of being like a representative, like being the cool person at the mountain to get to like hang out. Cause I was always like really kind of whack when I was young and snowboarding, and cause I didn't get to do it very much, and I just didn't know anyone that snowboarded. So it was like such a different world. And I went there, I'm like a little nervous and shit. So then when I was like older, I'm like, oh, like, hey, what's up, man? Like, oh, you're out here snowboarding? Dude, that's really cool. Like, oh, what are you having fun doing? I don't know. You just be like, reach out a little bit and try to be as cool as you can be. And maybe that person has like a better time and hyped on it for longer.
It goes a long way. I was just out in Colorado, and that was one of the things I noticed at all the skate parks, is that everyone at the skate parks were super friendly. I mean, everyone in the state in general was really friendly, but
they're all high.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's it. I don't know what it was, but everyone was just really, really friendly, and that just made me want to go like, oh, I want to come back here. Everybody's cool.
Yeah, and it's they helped us see a lot of that stuff. They helped us a lot with training. They sent operators in to help train our staff. There's a lot of different programs that do that. in the ski industry. Theirs is definitely light years ahead of everyone else. So they're definitely tied into our success. They've helped us with industry connections. They've been great guys to work with.
Well, so Gunny owns Snowpark Technologies, and I met him. I went out to Nationals at Big Bear and Snow Summit in '97. And at the time I was riding for Joyride, and I think Switch maybe. And Gunny actually lived at the Joyride house in Big Bear. And he was the terrain park manager at Snow Summit. And I had worked at, some local resorts in the Mid-Atlantic at Whitetail and was involved in the terrain park. And I was a snowboarding school supervisor. And I got out there for Nationals, and Joyride set me up at the house there where Gunny lived and said, hey, you're gonna go stay with Gunny out there. And I didn't know Gunny, so I basically show up in the Snow Summit, and they're like, I'll just ask for Gunny when you get up there. Everybody knows him. So I get up there, I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for a guy named Gunny. Oh yeah, he lives over here. So people actually running the event pointed me to his house. And I get over there and get on the mountain with Gunny, and I've never seen somebody, being around terrain park managers and snowboard school managers, he was doing it totally different than anybody else and had serious passion about doing it and doing it right. And I think the year I was out there for Nationals and stayed with him was the first X Games maybe, and it was at Snow Summit. So we actually rode that same park for Nationals, but they did an amazing job. So it was cool because I haven't talked to him since. I saw him at Vail one year, maybe 10 years later, when he had started Snowpark Technologies, but there was no better person to do that. And I know the quality of people he's going to hire are people that really take pride in their stuff, that are professional, that treat people right. It was funny when I stayed with him because I didn't know him at all. I just met him when I got there. I knocked on his door and said, yeah, I'm Paul. I'm here to stay with you. I ride for Joyride. And he just kind of, oh, okay, yeah, what's going on? And at the end of the week, it was Easter. And I needed a ride down to the airport in Ontario. And he's like, oh, my family lives in Ontario. So why don't I fly out to I got a red eye tonight. I fly out 10 o'clock at night. He's like, why don't you come have Easter dinner with my family? I'm like, okay, wow. Cool. And totally awkward. I didn't know anybody, but they were the nicest family. And Gunny was like, no, it's totally cool, man. Seriously, it's fine. I felt all awkward. And he's like, dude, relax, man. It's good. Great people, man. So it's cool to see somebody like that succeed and have such an impact on snowboarding. Because, I know from him, it's all a passion, and it's for the right reasons. He's not out there to try to. He's building a very great business, successful business, and helping snowboarding. He's done amazing things, and to see it here at Seven Springs, to see it have that ripple effect from where he started in California, really all over the world now, but to see it come to the East Coast and Seven Springs to bring that in it's cool to see.
Yeah, that guy has done so much for not only snowboarding but the ski industry in general. He does so much that people just don't ever see or know about or hear about.
He's not the type of dude that likes to take credit.
Or he can go out and build awesome jumps and awesome courses and run awesome events, and he hires the best people. But there's so much behind the scenes that guy does for the industry to keep terrain parks alive and to keep terrain parks thriving at resorts across the country that he's never going to see anything from that except just to know that he somehow helped keep that going. He works a lot with NSAA and all the attorneys to just really keep it going. And he's 10 years ahead of where we are now, making sure that in 10 years we have the same parks that we have now. They might look a little different, but we're still going to have parks.
And he was the first person to kind of almost develop the science behind park building, figuring out angles of takeoffs and landings, and then, giving the right amount of room in front of the takeoffs so where you're not compressing too much going off the lip, giving you kind of a flat spot there to set up and not just get compressed and hugged. So yeah, that's cool, man. It's good to see.
I mean, there's so much that those guys are doing that he's kind of driving, and a lot of other people are too. I mean, we could nerd out on jump science for 4 hours. But I mean, there's guys in compression.
Go ahead, let's nerd out.
So
there's guys in like compression suits in Tahoe, like hitting jumps at different speeds, the same jumps. I mean, just like crazy stuff, just to see the G-force
getting immediate feedback on their phones now.
Yeah.
Dude, I saw that. That was at SWA. They had on their boards. They had like impact sensors and stuff too.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much that's going into it that's keeping terrain parks alive and ski resorts. And he's so involved with that stuff, and that's the really cool stuff that he's doing. Like, the events are awesome, but like for him to do that with his time, whenever he could probably be focusing on making more money doing some event, is like, that's what I think is really cool about him. For sure. That's why I respect the guy a lot. Like,
will the technology ever be there to make, forget hoverboards, like a hover rail, so you just put it wherever you want and you can actually slide it hovering out of the ground?
He's probably doing that. He's probably already done that.
They had a hovering wall ride at one point.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we did that last year at the Meltdown, right?
Oh my God.
I tell you, the other cool thing is too.
Science gone too far.
The other cool thing too is with SPT and with Gunny, and is there used to be kind of some competition, like a couple other little companies popped up and started doing park design and stuff like that. Well, he actually grabbed the best guys. I mean, Kurt Hine and a lot of the best dudes in the industry as far as park building goes and creativity, and they all work for SPT now, and they're all one team. So you essentially have a crew of the best park builders and the most passionate people in the world behind that company. And I think it shows. I mean, it shows here at Seven Springs. It shows in every build they do, really. Yeah. And anything they're involved in.
Yeah. I mean, those guys have, not only they've helped our terrain parks, but they've helped me as a person kind of grow in my career. And like, I mean, it sounds so lame, but I mean, I would go to SPT retreats and like, they would have like human resources classes, and you walk into it and you're like, man, why am I going to listen to someone talk about human resources for 4 hours? It's like, oh, because that's going to make me a better manager.
Right.
And half of the kids that are there, 3/4 of them might not get any of it, but it's like, I took stuff away from that. And, they'd have classes on like, how to properly present buying new equipment to your managers, because, they're looking at it as like, they want to see a return on their investment. Well, how do you rate a return on investment for lift tickets in terrain parks or hotel rooms for kids in terrain parks?
Right.
Do you think those classes were more valuable, or your college education?
Probably those. I think, I learned a lot from those. Those guys are all really smart. All the guys that work for them, like Mike Patera, Jen, Gunny's wife, Gunny. I mean, there's a ton of them. There's, the building of terrain parks is, at this point, in 2001, I would have said that's the most important thing. But I think the building of the terrain park is probably one of the easier things to do at this point. It's, hiring the right staff, working them correctly, logging what you're doing, making sure that you're doing it correctly, testing the features, involving ski patrol, so that everybody's on the same page as what features are open, when parks are open, where we're at, snowmaking involved, the grooming involved. There's so much behind the scenes that goes into just building a jump or building a rail park. And that's where, I think that's where we've kind of, our park staff, we've really kind of taken that to like the most professional level that we could. We look at it's not a weekend job. It's like, this is our job. And a lot of the guys that work for us, we have a great staff. We've always had a great staff for years, besides AJ.
Wow.
They got rid of me.
Shots fired.
Just joking, AJ. But we've always had a great staff. It's, those guys, it's not like a weekend job. Like, these guys take it seriously. And,
they're working day and night, man. Yeah.
We explain to them every year, we do a big training program every year for our park staff. And it's like, this is serious. Like, if you don't do your job or you slack off on your job, people are going to notice. Like, everything that you do impacts our guests.
So the funny thing to me is you kind of just given away the secret for any other mountain that's listening to you. But the thing is, it's work.
Yeah,
it's real work,
is.
and it's top-down support.
Yeah.
And most of the mountains that are listening don't have top-down
support.
They want people on the chairs, and that's all they care about.
Or they want the part-time work for the weekend kid who doesn't even have the level of commitment that you discussed.
I've never been, through the years, I've had so many other local resorts call me and ask questions, and I'm like, I just feed as much information because, I love snowboarding, and if the mountain 20 miles away or 70 miles away has a great terrain park, it's only going to make us want to be better.
Right.
So
competition's good.
Yeah. I love competition.
Yeah, competition's good.
I'm a very competitive person, and I'm a very, I almost have OCD, and I'm really hard on myself. So I want to be the best. I'm stoked that we got 6th park according to Transworld, but now I want number 1. I'm not going to be happy now until we get number 1 in the country.
Well, so look, we can start that. Look, AJ, here's what I'm going to propose. We do 22-foot hips going into the Superpipe.
He's talking about
we
this.
We put 12-foot propane tank pill vertical on one wall of the Superpipe. Some hovering boxes or something. I think we could do it. So what's one of your biggest, for your position, and for anybody listening that doesn't know exactly what Joel does here, you wear many hats, but I guess what is your title? Action Sports Manager? Or
no.
What's your actual title?
My title now is Director of Mountain Operations.
Okay.
So you started from where, and now you're here?
Yeah, I was hired here as Assistant Terrain Park Manager.
But even before that, when you first started as a kid.
Even before that, I mean, my first job at a ski resort was Willie's.
Yeah.
Selling socks.
So there's a chance for anyone listening.
Yeah,
there's a chance. We have the dream.
And then I worked hand crew in park staff, and I loved it because it, like I said, it reminded me of skateboarding so much. And I felt cool doing it, so it was like a perfect job. So I did that every winter. Got into snowcats. Got really into building and kind of the operation. And one thing that we did different here at Seven Springs than any other resort I've been to or worked at, and I'm sure other people are doing it now, but probably not as involved, is we have a really large snowmaking system here. And we have a great group of snowmakers, but the terrain park definitely added a lot of work to it. And most parks basically, they lay out a snowmaking plan and they hand it off to another department.
Most parks don't even lay out a snowmaking plan.
Yeah.
At least the ones near us.
The good ones, the good terrain parks lay out a very,
that was Paul Horning, everybody.
I'm going to be banned from my local map.
Which parks in particular specifically?
Most parks lay out a snowmaking plan and just hand it off to the snowmaking department. And then they just go to meetings and, hey, when can this happen? Hey, when can we start doing this? And we just kind of took a different approach where, hey, we know this is taxing on other departments. This is a really long explanation of what my job title is.
Good.
But, this is whenever I think I was terrain park manager at the time, or then I moved into director of action sports.
That's what your Facebook said. That's why I said
all right. So we kind of took the approach, or I took the approach and worked with our snowmaking manager and our mountain manager at the time. I have 20 staff waiting, shovels in hand, to go out and build this stuff and maintain it. But we can't do it till the snow's made. And he's like, well, throw some Carhartts on and come up and help us make snow.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, how many guys do you need? He's like, give me as many as you got. And I think we showed up with 6 guys that night, 7 guys, all in our snowboard gear, not really knowing what to expect. And we just, we took it upon ourselves to learn the snowmaking system and learn how it runs. And we still do that. You know, we don't make all of our snow because we can't, because we just don't have the time and the staff to do it in the terrain park. But we're right there next to the snowmakers, like digging out guns whenever they're buried. And, you know, hey, we need to turn these 5 guns off and turn these 12 on. And they're like, have at it. You guys know how to do it.
But what that does just for the environment on the mountain is it's not us and them.
Yeah.
It's not park staff and snowmakers.
It's one big
together.
team.
Yeah.
Yep. So I kind of really worked into that and you know, I knew snowcats already, and I was getting more involved in understanding snowcats and the mechanics and how that department worked, and saw efficient ways that we could do it in the terrain park, you know, to maximize our usage of snowcats as well as snowmaking, and just looked at different ways, and then, you know, kind of somehow ended up in running the mountain.
That's awesome.
So yeah. So
what are your hurdles? I mean, what, like, if you had to maybe pick one thing that is the toughest thing you have to deal with, whether it's
Weather.
I mean, I know weather is a big thing when you're trying to crank out a ton of snow, or staffing, or I don't really know anything about mountain operations, but I mean, what's for you? What's one of the hardest things? What's one of the hardest parts of your job that if you could just snap your fingers and fix it, what do you think that is?
I mean, there's so many. It's like, I guess the one that I would say, it's like that I have to sleep because I love my job. I really do. I love working here. I love all the guys I work with. And, you know, I'm sitting behind my desk and I'm writing reports, and I spend a lot more time doing that. But in the winter, it's like, you know, I still throw my boots on and go out there and like turn snow guns on with the guys, and like, you know, any chance I can get to like jump in snowcats, and whether it's build a jump in the park or groom, you know, push piles on Fawn Lane or Wagner. Like, I love doing that stuff. And, you know, that's probably the biggest one for me, is because I want to be involved in everything. And, you know, I have a great team, and like just letting go of it
Right.
is hard for me.
Yeah.
Cause I do want to be involved, and I want to get out there and get dirty and, you know, have fun. Cause that's kind of how I came up, was doing all that stuff. And I really enjoy doing it.
That's a common trait amongst people in similar roles in the industry. I've multiple times worked with park managers, park groomers, what have you, all night long the night before a contest. Fucks me up. I'm done. I'm supposed to run a contest the next day, and I'm like worthless. And they're on. They're still good throughout the day. They'll go home that afternoon, get a couple hours of sleep, probably party at some point, and then be right back out there for their night shift. I'm screwed up for like 3 days just from having. I didn't even do anything. I sat in the cat with them and confirmed whatever they were thinking already. Like, you should probably move the snow there.
Yeah, you drank a lot.
I mean,
You drank a lot, so
I mean, like,
you did something.
The large events, like, you know, I've been fortunate enough to like work quite a few large events with SPT, and those, and, you know, Superpark, I think I'm at 7 or 8 Superparks now, you know, doing those, or like large photo shoots that we do at Seven Springs. I mean, those are taxing. Like, those are 8 to 15 days, you know, depending on what you're building, of 16 hours in a snowcat. It's like, you literally, like, you park your cat, or you hand your cat off to somebody else, and you go home and you fall asleep like instantly. And then, well, you probably drink like 3 or 4 beers and then you fall asleep because your mind at that point is just like wired and you can't fall asleep. And you fall asleep, and it's like, you wake up and the first thing you do is like grab some food and go back to work and do it all again. And then, you know, typically in these events, it's, you know, the last day you may work straight through and see the event start and see the event finish.
Wow.
You know, my second Superpark was at Keystone, and we had some issues, and some of the guys had got sick and couldn't be there. And I think I worked 48 hours straight.
Oh my God.
I mean, it was like, we had to finish this stuff.
Yeah.
And it was like me and one other guy, Jason Lee George. He took over park manager at Keystone, and then he was park manager at Copper, and I think he was park manager at Timberline most recently. And he works with SPT too. But yeah, I think we stayed it was like, Matt Malilly was there too. Matt Malilly is the park manager at Boreal now too. But we stayed like.
Heard of him.
AJ's boss.
Oh,
No longer lane?
I don't know. How does that work, AJ? What's
That's Kramer. Kramer's poking his head in the window.
Oh, we said
Matt's like
that.
the park manager, and Lane's like.
Lane's like number 2, I think, right?
Yeah, and then Lane does a lot of the snowmaking, and like, cause our like Boreal, like the snowmaking and terrain parks are like the same department, and grooming is all like the same department. So he does a lot of like he does a lot of stuff at the parks. Like he still rakes and stuff. Like it's crazy to me that he like goes and rakes slips, but they kind of work together. But I think his focus is more like park stuff, and then Lane does kind of like on mountain or different stuff around the mountain.
Gotcha.
They both work like all the time, like you said.
And how long until you'll be taking their job?
Insane hours. What'd you say?
I said, how long? I was just kidding, but I said, how long until you're taking their job? We just had a surprise guest drop in here. Jon Kramer heard that we might be shooting guns today, so
Now he's rooting through my
Now he
cooler
showed
looking
up
for
to
Coors
shoot.
Lights.
I hope we're shooting guns.
Who are you shooting at?
I thought you were coming, but since you're not here, probably Paul.
I've been shot
You
before.
gonna shoot Paul?
the mic's pretty sensitive, so it will pick up like all that rustling and noises.
Oh, okay. Don't rustle.
I mean, do your thing, but
Kramer just shows up and starts rustling. Good job, Kramer.
Sorry about that.
you just blew out AJ's eardrums.
So, I mean, speaking of that, like, I know this is getting off topic of what we were talking
No,
about.
we can go any direction.
But, like, you know, that's always really cool for me to, like, I worked at Keystone those years, and there was a group of us that really cared about the park, and we all worked our asses off to make that park what it was. And it's cool that there's so many of us that, like, you know, there was, I think, 3 or 4 super parks where it was like Matt Malilly was there for Boreal. You know, that kid was a lift operator my first year at Keystone.
Yeah,
and we
wow.
brought him onto park staff. You know, Jason Lee George, I think he came on my 3rd year at Keystone. I don't know if he worked food service. I don't know what that kid did. But, you know, we brought him on as park staff, and he was dedicated. So we put him in a cat, and like, he was creative and good at building. So it's cool to like see like that kind of crew of us. Like, you know, I see Elliot all the time still, cause he does all the big events. And it's like, so there's like 4 of us right there that are like, we all work together at Keystone, and like, we're all park managers or somehow involved in the industry on like a higher level. It's kind of cool to see, how that.
Yeah, every industry, once you get into it at any level, it seems like a small industry because you see those people. But I mean,
yeah, but
this is an industry that Gunny basically created. So
Yeah.
it's a handful of people that all know each other.
Yeah, I mean, the industry of like park builders, or like good park builders that do it professionally, is pretty small. But like, I don't know, it's cool for like the 4 of us, you know, that all worked at the same resort at the same time, and like built Keystone's park into like, you know, whenever we were leaving, we were better than Breck. Like, we were. You know, that we kind of
disagree.
We built that park up to what it was, and it's like, it's cool that all those guys are still like super involved in it, and I get to see them all the time.
Has there ever been one build that you look back on and like, that was it? That was the best one so far?
Yes.
What is it?
We don't have a name for it, and I don't have a picture of it. I wish I could show it to you. We did, and we got like 0 photos out of it too, which is terrible. We built this crazy cube feature for, I'm trying to remember if it was Forum or Burton. It was here at Seven Springs.
I remember. There was a few photos of that floating around.
I think it was Forum. We got a couple photos.
Was that with like the wall on the left side, but it was up against the right, and there was a tunnel under?
Is it in that video?
That was the launch. It was after. It might have been in that.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't in that. It was in It was in a video, but we didn't get a lot of photos from it.
Okay.
It was supposed to be a cover of Snowboarder, And then it got pulled because Transworld was talking about running it as a cover. And then they ran it as just like night shot of the year. It was the one where we had a pole jam in the middle. There was like 2 cheese wedges on either side of the pole jam. And the pole jam was like a step up and over through a gap. And then there was a hip on the right side. And then later in the week, the pole jam that was kind of like a step through the gap. We chainsawed out, put a tarp in there and built a pond in there. So it was a step up, landing in a pond, and then popping off in the landing. And that feature was just like aesthetically from the top, like that was the year that I got really nerdy and I bought this crazy laser that shoots like 500 yards. I still have it. We use it all the time. But that was the year I bought the laser, and it shoots like true squares, and it auto levels itself, and it shoots these lasers out. So it's like, we typically like to work during the day because you can see everything a little bit better. But we worked a lot at night just so that we could use that laser. And it was like all the squares were perfectly squared, and like, it really turned into, oh yeah, this transition feels good, or like this is, this looks square, to like, it was perfectly square. Like
architecture.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it was so dialed, and like, we didn't get the most coverage out of it, but it was by far like the best feature. I love everything that I build or I'm involved with, but like that thing was just like, I remember sitting at the top. I still have pictures of it like on my phone and on, social media and on my computer. And it's just like, man, that thing was perfect. Like, you see it and you're like, it doesn't even look real because it's too perfect.
Well, aside from features, is there an event you guys have had here that you think has been your favorite or best event that you've had here? I mean, is it Superpark? Is it the launch? Is it one of the
I like all
qualifiers? Yeah.
They're just, like Burton qualifiers was awesome because it was cool to see. It was the largest on snow event that we've ever done at this resort. And I think it was the first professional snowboarding event in the state of Pennsylvania, or skiing or snowboarding event. It was, and that was cool. But the really cool thing about it was like how involved everybody in this resort was, from marketing to terrain parks to electricians to snowmaking to carpenters. Like, there was so much prep that had to go in, even in the summer leading up to that event, with just running more power for the event and building structures and just seeing how much everyone at this resort could come together to make that happen. Like, that was really cool.
I think a lot of the local riders are really proud too. I mean, I saw a lot of people mixing it up with a lot of the riders and getting input from them, and almost having a sense of pride that, like, this is my home mountain.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool.
It seemed like even your average snowboarder here that rides at Seven Springs was somehow involved in, like, seeing that event be successful.
Yeah. It was a really cool event, and I liked it from that standpoint. But there's so many, like I love doing the Rev Tour. It's so cool to see these kids that are coming out, and they're so good and so talented, and to like bring them to a resort in Pennsylvania where it's like they've all heard of us now because we've made our name in the terrain park and kind of the ski resort world, but they may never come here because they're flying to Tahoe normally, or Japan or somewhere.
Lift tickets are cheaper here.
Yeah.
Half as cheap as anywhere else.
And to to have all those kids come from across the world to ride here is really cool, and to have that every year, and to talk to the athletes and their coaches, and they're like, this place is great. Like, do you have this park every day? And we're like, yeah, this is literally our open to public park minus the rail section. It's a little less slope style feeling. That's cool. If I had to pick my favorite event, it would be Superpark, just because
of what it is.
It is.
It was incredible.
Like, to have that on the East Coast, like, Pat and I are pretty good friends, from Pat Bridges from Snowboarder Magazine. And, we've worked together on a lot of stuff at Seven Springs, and we got the launch, and I thought, man, like, that'll be the coolest thing we'll ever do. Like, all these photo shoots that we did, like, for Forum and Burton were great. And like Kevin Keller and Brian Knox, those guys from Burton and Forum, were awesome to work with. I love those events, but the Superpark, just like, it has that like you're working with other builders, so you get to see what other people are doing. And there's this like camaraderie between everybody that's there, because it's not a win or lose thing. It's just, there is between the builders, like we all have a little ego and we all want to beat each other and build something better than everybody. And whoever gets the cover wins, even though it's not really a competition. But it's just such a good event, and the history behind it, I think we just had 20, didn't we?
Yeah. I just thought it was rad
but to have it here was just like,
you're a local rider and you get an email from Bridges like, hey, we want you to come ride in Superpark.
Yeah. It's at Seven Springs.
Yeah. So many of the local Seven Springs riders just got this email from Bridges just like, hey, we want you to come ride. Because I remember seeing towards the end of the season, I saw these massive piles of snow being blown back there, and they weren't being touched. I'm like, oh, they must be doing some like whale watchers thing, And
they kept getting bigger.
I remember I talked to Genovese, and I'm like, hey, what's going on back there? He's like, well, nothing. And I'm like, something's going on. And nobody would really say anything about it. And then somebody, I can't remember who it was, told me like, hey, don't say anything, but we're having Superpark here. I'm like, what? And the mounds of snow you guys had back there, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like that. Just that event means so much to me. Like I remember whenever I was not even running cats, like seeing those Superpark events, or seeing the magazine and just like waiting to see what like these guys built this year. And like, I don't know, it in my mind, it was always the coolest and the best event in snowboarding, because it was less of an event and more of like an industry gathering. And it was somewhat focused on the builders and what those guys built and how creative it was. And to be involved with that event for however many years I have been, like, I'm super fortunate and grateful, and I want to continue to be involved in it. And then to host it at, the only time it's ever been on the East Coast, it may never be on the East Coast again. Yeah. Like to host it here was just like, it was nuts.
And to host
Bridges was here for like we were doing like a photo shoot, and, he was traveling the East Coast with a group of guys, and we went to breakfast. He's like, I want to talk to you about something. I'm like, all right. So we went to breakfast or lunch. I don't remember. And he's just like, I think Joe was there. And he's like, what do you think about hosting Superpark here? And I was like, no, like, there's no way we can do it. Like, we're not going to have the snow. Like, I was just like, I pretty much like thought he was fucking with me at that point. And then we just started to talk through it, and I was like, okay, like it is possible to do. It's just going to take a lot of commitment. Like, and he's like, well, I need to know in,
12 hours,
a couple days. And I was like, man, like, well, not only do you need to know in a couple days, but like, it's late in the year at this point. It's like, I don't know how much more snowmaking we're going to have. And literally next Tuesday, I think, it was like a week away, less than a week away. It's like, we're getting this cold snap where it's going to be like 5 degrees for like 8 days straight. And like, I can make all the snow we need in those 7 days if we did this. So I literally think we left lunch and like walked up and talked to our CEO, and he was just like, yeah, let's do it.
No, yeah, that's amazing.
And, then it was like, just putting it together over the next 6 days, and
because it was already
it was done. It was
already early March. It was early March. And it was already getting warm.
Yeah, we were talking. I think it was like mid-February, and it was like that last week in February there was a cold snap coming.
Yep.
Like into March, and it was like, if we're gonna do it, we need. It literally came down to the wire where it was like, are we making snow or are we not making snow? And Pat's like, we're doing it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Has there ever been a build that you just didn't go your way? You're just like, this is the worst build ever. This didn't work out. I was going to say the word abortion, and now I've said it. You're just like, abort.
Like, no and yes. Like there's times where you'll try to build something. I'm really hard on myself, so I think every build that I do is the worst build ever. Like, no matter what, I'm like, I always put on a smile and a positive face, but like, it can always be better. So like, I think everything that I've ever built, even the feature that I was talking about that was like my favorite feature, like I know the 8 things that I would have changed about that feature had I was given another 2 days, because that's the way I am. I'm hard on myself, and I want everything to be perfect, and it's never going to be perfect. There's every day you're out there, and it's like, you set up a plan to build, say you're laying out a park or you're building a feature. Every blade of snow counts that you're pushing into it, as mindless as it may be. That the placement of all of them counts. It's like building a house. Like the 2x4s all have to be square. There's a reason why later they have to be square. At the time, it may not really matter. You're just holding up another floor, but later it does matter. So there's definitely a lot of I can't think of like a large feature that went completely south that I was like, oh my God, what are we going to do?
That analogy is interesting to me because it's from a construction mindset, which I think a lot of, myself included, snowboarders are missing. You're thinking snow. Your whole focus as a kid is snow, and the kid that comes up and goes to work on the park crew is snow. He's not working in his dad's construction business. He wants to be on the snow. But I think that the pairing those two together is really important.
Well, maybe I need to hit Gunny up.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, it's
been managing construction projects for a long time. Maybe I need to go work in snow.
I mean, that's, building parks, that's what it is. It's 100% like it's construction.
Yep.
It's, it's a mix of, building a house and running dozers and heavy equipment. You're pushing snow and building something. And, someday, as AJ said, in the future, we're not going to have hovering rails, but someday we're going to have full CAD, Trimble units. I mean, we have Trimble units on Snowcats now.
What's a Trimble?
We don't have them, but Trimble unit is it's basically GPS. It's I think it's LiDAR and GPS.
I'm glad they don't know what it is, because I was like, what is that thing? I saw him using it the other day for actual construction. I was like, what is that thing? And he answered like, Trimble. I was like, sorry, I felt like an idiot. I got my man card pulled, and now that you guys don't know, I mean, you guys aren't getting it either. Now that you guys had that question what it is, I feel much more secure.
Where did, on a construction site?
This was up at Laurel Mountain.
Laurel Mountain. John came up and checked out Laurel.
Okay.
A Trimble unit, it's I don't know if it's LiDAR or GPS, but basically in construction nowadays, like bulldozers, heavy equipment, whenever they're building highways or large construction projects, the dozer operator is driving forward and back and watching a computer screen, not watching what he's doing. He's watching what he's doing, but it basically GPSs your blade and tells you what it's supposed to look like. And all you have to do is, it gets you within half an inch.
It's like a video game.
Yeah, it literally is. But it's cool. There's handheld units, and then there's units you can put on equipment, and then it matches to the bottom of the blade of the snowcat. It's someday that will be, it's going to be that way. Cause we've tried to do it in half pipes. Half pipes are such jumps and rails. There's so much creativity that goes into it, but half pipes are this is what it is. There's a perfect formula of this is how wide it is. This is what you have to do to the snow. The grade has to be this. There's a formula that makes a perfect half pipe, and you get as close to that as you can. We use transits whenever we build half pipes. We use lasers. We use levels. We square everything up perfectly. It's basically, it's construction. It's taking things I've learned in construction and building houses, and I've stolen from different industries, heavy equipment, whatever it may be, and taking it to terrain parks.
What other developments you see maybe happening like that we'll see in the future that makes either building terrain parks better, or just we'll start seeing more things in terrain parks we maybe haven't seen before?
I don't think there's going to be I think we've somewhat peaked on our large stuff. I don't see pipes. We're not going to have a 40-foot half pipe because
Kramer will come out and ride it for an hour. I'll be there for 8.
It'll be a good hour.
My 2016-17 initiative is to make Kramer ride full days again. Instead of make America great again, it's make Kramer snowboard again.
there was a long period of time where snowboarding and terrain parks and the builders were like, everybody just tried to one up each other. And it's like, they all came out and it was like, I built a 75-foot jump. It's like, I built an 80-foot jump. Oh my God, Breck has a 90-foot jump. And it's like, whoa, I heard about this jump they built in Tahoe. It was 120 feet. And it was like, that's the direction it was going. And one of the things that like Pat Bridges always kind of says that I've helped do this to the industry. And I think I did it without even really knowing. I've taken smaller features and made them look huge. Mm-hmm. Like I was always more focused on the aesthetic of the jump because, and I say this and it's not exactly true, but anybody can go out and build a jump given some experience in a snowcat and riding and some construction background. Like, I can take anybody in a year, I can have them building a jump, but it's taking that jump and kind of turning it into almost like a work of art or like a very square, symmetrical looking thing is a completely different ballgame. And then, whenever we do photo shoots or large events, it's taking that and, okay, yeah, this kid can hit a 80-foot jump, or this kid can hit a 90-foot jump and he might do a 9 off of it. But if I make a 70-foot jump, he might try a triple cork. Well, how can I make the 70-foot jump look way cooler than a 70-foot jump? And it's like, okay, well, notch these channels out that really don't affect the way the jump's built at all or the way the jump looks at all. But it, video wise, standing from the side, it's like, oh my God, that's huge. It's the reason we put like channels. I'm like pointing around my office now at the photos, but it's the reason we put channels and hips. It's like, we could easily it's a lot easier to leave the hip connected than it is to cut the channel in it. But cutting the channel in it, it does a couple things. It's like photos, it looks huge because the guy's 40, 60 feet off the ground. So it just looks massive. And it also keeps kids from messing up the hip.
It makes it intimidating. It keeps a lot of people off of it.
Yeah. Cause you have to clear that 20-foot gap, but 20 foot on a hip isn't, anybody can do it. It's just like, you just got to do it once. Not anybody, but all of the, semi-professional amateur riders that are showing up to these events. But so I've always been let's go to Superpark or let's do these photo shoots and build a 110-foot jump. We've done it, but I was never that excited about it. I'm more excited to build a 70-foot jump and come up with some creative way to make it look like a 120-foot jump, or cut these crazy channels to make it seem really high off the ground.
You mentioned that it's almost like an art, and AJ and I were talking about this on the way up. We're talking about the Asian people that do the art in the sand and they scrape it. That's building a snowboard park because it goes away. Do you have any like emotional attachment when you see one of your best builds, something you put just hours and hours of your life into, destroyed or melt or whatever, however it goes down?
Not at all.
No?
No. I typically, by the time, especially, I hate to see open to public parks. That kills me. Like whenever we're like losing the alley, it's such a good park and kids love that park. And whenever we're losing that, I hate it. Whenever we're losing the 22-foot pipe, like it drives me nuts. And like, that stuff bothers me. But, whenever we're building these custom photo shoot features, you're working so much on the same thing every day and you're putting in so many hours, and then the event, the riders show up, and then you're catering to the riders so much to like make them feel welcome. Do you need the in-run groomed? Do you need it salted? Let me get you some more laps. Like, do you need lunch? Because you want these kids to go out and succeed, because if they don't succeed in landing good tricks and getting good photos, this was all pointless. So that's just as much of a job as it is building it. And after that time is up, I'm so spent. Like, I can't wait to go up in a snowcat and just like knock the top off of that cheese wedge. Like, it's so satisfying to like, how many construction workers do I'm using that as like a, or artists, like how many people do you know that like create this beautiful thing that's a work of art or this big building, and then get to just literally blow it up.
Yeah. You're looking at it from the whole picture then, and not just, I've got to create this, but we've got to create this for these people that are coming. You know, you've got more of a holistic view than just, let's build this jump.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally one part of it. Like it's one of my favorite parts. I love building and I love creating something. And I love working with all the guys that the team that we have here at Seven Springs is so good at doing that. I love working with those guys. But, you know, you can build the greatest feature in the world. If you don't get coverage of it and the riders can't ride it and the riders can't succeed, you might as well not have built it, because
right.
it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's a failure. Like, you know, we're not building these things for our friends or ourselves, because none of us are hitting them, or very few of us are. Some of us may be able to. Jon may be able to. But, you know, for the photo shoot stuff, like, it's very rare that we get to ride any of this stuff because it's so large.
So I'm going to change subjects here a little bit. Paul just came back from the bathroom, and I'm going to do the subject change and go do the same, because we should have maybe made a potty.
I thought he wears diapers now.
No, he has worn diapers a couple times in his life, adult life. But we'll give him a pass on that for now.
Though?
What's that?
Not for this interview, though.
No, not for this interview. We'll give him a pass on that today. But I'm dyslexic, so if I get this number wrong, give me a little rim. What is the number, 738 or 783 in India?
I'm so confused.
Doesn't mean anything to you off the top of your head?
738?
Or 783?
No.
So Jon texted me on the way over, or earlier today. And
maybe I need a reminder.
He said, yeah, Joel's into motorcycles. He put on a rally. Wasn't that your number at a race?
Yeah, 738.
738, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I used to be really into it.
What kind of
I'm trying to get back into it.
Like dual sport, like car rally type stuff, or like motocross, or
like enduro stuff.
Yeah.
So like there's a GNCC series, and then there's A-Works. So they're kind of like enduros, like what Jon does, but on a motorcycle.
Yeah. Yep.
They're really cool, man. They're super fun races. It's like they're typically 2 or 3 hours. Some of them are like stages. The enduro races are stages, and take place over. Some of them are one day, some of them are a couple days. But they're rad. They're just like, it's riding dirt bikes on terrain that half of the terrain you shouldn't ride a dirt bike on.
You guys did one here, didn't you?
Yeah, we did one here last year.
Nice.
Yeah. We're doing it
Wisp
not last
used
year,
to
year
have
before.
it every year, but I think they did.
Snowshoe has one every year.
Okay.
Snowshoe does one, but yeah, we did one 2 years ago here, and we're doing one again next year. So I need to buy a bike again. I had some issues, and I had to sell my bike because I couldn't get hurt for like a year or two. So I sold my bike and bought a boat. I got really into wake surfing now.
Yeah, actually, that's another thing we're talking on the way up.
You got pretty hella on the lakes.
Got what?
You got super hella on the lakes.
Oh yeah.
So hey, Jon, why don't you shut that door and lock Nate out? Let's hijack this podcast. No, that's one thing actually. I know Nate was going to talk to you about was you're big into, what is it, wake surfing, wake skating?
Wake surfing.
Okay, I really wanted to try it.
Yeah. Came up 2 months ago.
So were there some places recently in Pittsburgh that like opened the lakes or rivers up to it that it wasn't before?
No.
Okay.
It's always, people have done it forever. Probably 5 years ago, my friend Steve bought a boat in Pittsburgh. And we used to wakeboard all the time. Not all the time, but, occasionally. And I've always wanted to surf. I've tried to surf, and I'm a horrible surfer. I used to be able to stand up on a wave occasionally. I haven't even tried it, but I've always wanted to surf, but I've always lived at ski resorts, and there's just no way to do it. So I saw these guys river surfing in Colorado, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'll try river surfing. So, we have a whitewater river a couple miles from the resort. So I went down there thought that would be awesome. It was terrible. It was the worst experience of my life. It was like
bouncing off of rocks.
Yeah, it was like paddling out trying to catch this wave and then just getting flushed down the river like 2 miles. It was terrible. Didn't enjoy it at all. So my buddy bought this boat and started surfing behind it. I was like, "What do you mean surfing? Like, I don't get it." So I went out and tried it. And I was like, "It's perfect, man. It's like you literally surf rivers or lakes or whatever. And it's, you get a waist high or taller wave, and it's just endless. It's like you can ride the wave forever, man. Like I'm doing.
Can you get barrel? Can you like?
You almost can. There's so much, like you have to weight your boat down in certain ways, and there's different tabs on the boats and different things that you can do. So you can, if the wave gets big enough, man, you can get close to getting barreled on a wave. It's pretty cool, but I've been doing it for 2 years now, like trying to do it, twice a week pretty much for 2 years. And it's like, I could never do a 360 on a surfboard. I can do a 360 surfboarding now.
Shit, if you guys are getting shoulder high waves on a boat, I need to quit driving 4 hours and drive a half hour to that local river.
I've never seen a picture of a shoulder high wave.
Yeah, not shoulder.
Okay.
Yeah, we're saying like knee on a bad day, like waist is about average.
Oh, shit.
Like waist high wave. I mean, I'm like,
that's what we surf on the regular.
I mean, I'm getting 2 foot airs on a good day.
Whoa, you're catching air?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying shove it's like I can do surface threes. Like, I mean, it's fun, man. It's such a good time. It's just like you cruise forever. That wave never ends. Like, surfing's awesome. And if I lived near the ocean, I would probably surf more. But it's so much work for like so little gratification. Like wake surfing is just like you're done. Like you could surf for an hour if you want.
This where I got to step in and say has very little to do with surf conditions though, because like the river's crazy. Like you guys have you ever been on a Pittsburg river on a boat?
I drank beers at Bettis's restaurant and watched people on the river.
That's pretty close, but it's not that wide. There's barges. There's all kinds of shrapnel. There's logs and telephone poles floating down the river, and all this stuff could hit you at any time. Or there's just crazy, of course, drunk dudes. Like with
Nate. He pointed at Nate.
It's harsher than I thought
it really is. It's a serious place. It's like I don't know what surf spot to compare it to, but it's definitely not like sunshine and bikinis and like warm water. Like it's not usually warm water.
Badass ugly girl.
Yeah.
If it is warm, you're near some kind of like industrial plant.
It's nuclear heat.
I mean,
it's radiation keeping you warm.
I went last weekend, and I mean, it's like full dry suits, like. I think the water temperature was like 58. Air temperature was like 60. Like, I mean, it was freezing. Like, but we went, man. We just suit up and go.
What are the boards like? Are they like surfboards?
They're like wide short boards. Man.
Yeah. There's a couple different styles. There's like skim style boards, which I don't typically ride, but they're more like guys will do shove-its and like stuff like that on them. And then there's surf style boards that just it's like my board's 4'11". Like if I was to surf in the ocean, I'd probably ride a 5'11", right?
Okay.
I'm guessing.
And you have fins?
Yeah, big surf fins. Like if you want the board looser, different fin setups.
AJ said soft top or hard top, and I'm wondering wax, no wax.
So right now they're all like pads.
Mm-hmm.
But the industry's kind of leaning more towards just having like a back pad and then waxing. Okay. Like we have a longboard that we cruise on a lot.
That was going to be a question. I was like,
whoa,
good.
Yeah, we have a longboard that we cruise on a lot. It's really fun. And it's like, I mean, like the longboard, you can just like, you can hang 10 on it, man. You literally can. Like you can be cruising down the river and drop down to your belly and bodyboard for a couple minutes and then jump back up. Like you can paddle into the wave.
You can sponge too?
Yeah.
Whoa, you can drag dick. Hang 10. All in Pittsburgh on the rivers.
Yeah, it's fun, dude. It's a lot like surfing. It's really a lot like surfing. It's just like you're on a man-made wave. It's the same thing they opened up in Texas.
So can we jump into a couple listener questions?
Sure. Do you have them queued up?
I have a few here.
Cool.
And I think Joel's seen a couple of them already from last night. A quick
Does
one.
Tom Dickey still have a job?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Okay, he's fired.
Yeah.
All right, we just fired Tom. Sorry, Tom. Rob Zeglin from Always says, "Why doesn't Seven Springs have a skate park?"
It did, right?
Yeah.
There was a mini ramp here at one point.
There was.
Indoor.
So we tried. It was naughty. That was a fight. I don't want to say it was a fight, but it was a fight. It was hard for me to get the space for that mini ramp. We do so many conventions and so many groups in the winter and in the summer that every square foot of this resort is used for something.
But that was indoors, though. You guys had indoor.
It was indoor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to get that space indoor, because I wanted it during the winter, so that if the conditions are always great here, but in case one day they aren't,
right.
we had something to do.
Yeah.
It was tough, man. And my friend Danny worked for Red Bull, and he had a ramp. He was moving out of his warehouse, and he needed to get rid of it. And it was an all right ramp. It wasn't great. So I took it. I think we stored it for a while, and basically, we were gonna try it for a year. So we put money into it. We doubled the width of it. I mean, we built a ramp from scratch.
Yeah.
We doubled the width of it. We cut it a foot down. It was like 5 foot. It was just too tight. The transition was too tight on it. So we cut it down to 4 foot. We doubled the width of it, resurfaced it, put new coping on it. And it was a really good little 4 foot mini ramp. It was really fun. And just, man, the local kids, it wasn't super regulated. It was kind of back in a corner. Mm-hmm. And the local kids that went up there every day and were skating it started just putting stickers over everything. And then they started bringing Sharpies and writing on the walls. And they went back into it's kind of by a storage, a loading dock area. And they started going back there and unpacking boxes.
So some shitheads that probably didn't skate that much ruined it for people who wanted to skate it.
SPHC.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sucks. I would like for us to have something like that.
I think it'd be awesome.
I don't think we're ever going to have a skate park, because it just doesn't make sense for us to have a skate park. There's really good skate parks that, Greensburg has a good skate park.
Mm-hmm. Wheeling's not far.
Wheeling's not far. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good skate parks around.
But I think
I don't think we need
a
huge skate park, because there's so many good free parks. But to have a rad little mini ramp and maybe a couple rails or something just sitting out there, I would love to have that.
I think we should just pour a concrete bowl. But
I skated it once, and you were supposed to pay $1 or something to somebody.
Yeah.
There wasn't anyone there to give the money to. But it was awesome.
Damn,
Snowboarding.
you stole from Seven Springs, Nate?
I'll leave $1 here. I'll leave $1 with Joel today. But it was awesome. We snowboarded, better part of the day, and then skated the ramp for a while. And I was so stoked to come back and do it again. And then next time I tried, I was like, "Well, I swear it was here, guys." I brought a couple other people, and I was like, "It was right here. I swear." Went around asking people.
Nate.
Yeah, there was
Fascinating again.
there was a taxidermy convention going on, so I'm asking these taxidermy people, hey, is there a mini ramp around here? I could have sworn there was one here. They had no idea what I was talking about.
See, that's the resort does so much that people don't, besides just skiing and snowboarding.
Right.
That literally every square foot of this place is valuable in some way. So to get the space for a mini ramp, it was that mini ramp was only going to live there in the winter. And then just because a couple bad kids just messed it up, and it was a challenge building the ramp every year and tearing it down to get it out of the way. So we got donated to my friend.
All right, we'll move on to the next question. I got one from Ryan Sable, and this is actually a good question because it's a fun area to ride. When is Wagner Headwall becoming an official terrain park?
That was a terrain park before.
Right.
Never.
If you're regular footed, that's great.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. The Headwalls is
I think it's fun.
It's good to throw methods off that thing.
Yeah.
I'm goofy and I love throwing methods off that thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Wagner would be a good place for a park. It's got good in-run and it's flat. Like, I'd take Wagner to build a park.
My wife wanted me to ask if you'd bring the apple grogs back to the top, just to serve like some kind of
apple grogs.
Yeah,
alcoholic drink.
Alcoholic drink.
Up
It's like kind of a cinnamon stick in it, and probably whiskey or something.
Should probably still get one up there.
They have those. They don't. They probably don't have them up top. That's why you're saying up at top.
Yeah.
I'll ask.
All right. Yeah.
I'll ask.
I'll let her know. What were some of the
Those
other
are
questions?
good.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I've drank a couple of those in the Foggy Dog
what
on
else
my
do we
day.
have?
Pulling up some more listener questions here.
Yeah.
Who was the best contest announcer you ever had?
Oh, I know the answer.
I've never announced here.
I would definitely have to say Tom Dickey.
Oh my gosh.
He did such a good job.
Is that why you fired him?
Yeah.
Here, Avern Lefevre asked, how many bananas would it take for Nate to successfully fuel himself as a snowmaking cannon?
I'll post up a picture of this question. He didn't ask about Nate, he asked about Paul. But
because we already know the answer to Nate's.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So that one doesn't really apply, but that's funny.
All right, so Scott W. Dar
Just ask the second part of that one.
What's that?
Just ask the second part.
Yeah. Why not more natural style features in snake run, holy bowly type setups? Which would be rad.
It would.
Those are hard to maintain.
It is.
They are. Who asked this question?
Ryan.
Scott Dar. My
Scott
friend
Dar.
Scott.
Scott Dar.
Okay.
Well, Scott, snake runs don't actually get built; they get made. I don't know if he's ever seen one being created, but basically they get made from. For the most part, they get made from people just snowboarding the same turns constantly, and they just kind of evolve in natural snow. It's really hard to build out of a snowcat. You can do it, and it's done. They build a lot of what's one at Mount Bachelor, not Bachelor.
Oh, the
Mount
bank
Baker.
slaloms.
Like they build the bank slalom, they build the turns, but a lot of it's handwork, and it's like.
And it's riding it in.
Yeah, and it's riding it in, and like, slipping it in certain ways. They're not easy to build. The thing about snowcats is they're big, and it's really hard to build small things.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest challenge. I wish I could have a snowcat that was like 8 feet wide and 6 feet long or something. Like I wish I had a mini snowcat that was super tiny because it would be so fun to build. Like it's, I would do so much cool stuff that was like 25, 30 foot jumps that I would have so much fun on. But you can't do it because the snowcats are large.
Yeah, I think as snowboarders that have been in it for a long time age, they see that, and myself included, as being maybe like a border cross or something, as being a way to still be in it and competitive, where I'm not going to hit any of the jumps in the park, at a certain age, or even the small rails or anything anymore. So what can I do that still connects me with what I think snowboarding is? And then that's where I think those are growing in popularity. So
yeah,
we've seen a lot of demand for those.
We've talked about quite a bit, especially in the last year and a half, 2 years, about putting a border cross in someplace. It's not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen this year, but I do see that as kind of probably being one of the next things that we do here. Less of a border cross and more of just, like bank turns, a couple tables, like rollers, that we can run some border cross events on, but more of like just like a fun run. That's like kind of like a rhythm, almost like a motocross track.
Any big plans for this year that you can talk about?
In the terrain park specifically, or
Pipe Park?
Like everything?
Yeah, anything big you guys are doing this year?
We're opening
really cool.
a new resort.
Well, Rand, yeah, let's talk
awesome.
about that. Yeah.
The new resort is awesome. Like it's 30 miles from here. So it's close.
Good powder mountain. When
Really good. Really good. Like there's some really good terrain over there. Like it feels different than Seven Springs or Hidden Valley. So this will be the third resort we own for people that don't know. Hidden Valley is about 8 miles away from us. But the terrain at Seven Springs and Hidden Valley, we have great terrain. We have great parks. But Laurel Mountain just feels different. Like it's the tree skiing over there. They cleaned out a lot of the trees in the 60s, 70s. So the tree skiing over there is just going to be awesome. Or riding, sorry.
Man, you got kicked out, didn't you?
But you can start skiing.
What?
Oh, I did. There was a day where a guy told me not to.
AJ, by the way, you were the best.
It wasn't like we were
announcer.
on the mountain and got kicked out.
And Nate still.
Oh,
Hey,
okay.
Nate, we didn't hear that. Nate still skis anyway, so it's cool. We can say
It
skiing.
was a split board.
I have a split board. I just got a split board.
Oh, make sure you talk about Laurel Mountain. If it snows a lot, it's not going to
It's
be
horrible.
So
Yeah,
don't
they
go
close.
there.
They
It's 10 minutes
close.
from my house. So.
Yeah, they close. With too much snow, they close. So you
Yeah.
probably just want to come to Springs.
Yeah. Anything over 6 inches, they're definitely not. It's a really cool, like that's big for us.
And Seven Springs Park closes down on anytime it's above 30 and sunny.
Yeah.
Park and pipes are closed.
So that's big for us. We're adding that to our Highlands Pass, so you can ski all 3 resorts, or you can just buy a day lift ticket that can access all 3. It's a really cool resort. There's a lot of really good little rock drops. I've never ridden there. I know John's ridden there. John loved that place.
Yeah, it's good.
Like John's told me some good stuff, and I've been over there several days a week for the past year and a half, kind of overseeing and helping with the construction. So I know a lot of that mountain now, and I'm really excited about riding it.
So we were joking about skiing, and we've got to kind of wind down here soon. But one of the things that I felt Springs has always done a really good job between skiing and snowboarding of is being okay with having a snowboarding event. A lot of these events nowadays you go to, and just because they're snowboarding, then they feel like they have to have skiing mixed in with it somehow. Does that go back to the top-down support for parks? Is that rhyme with snowboarding in some way here, or where does that come from?
I just think they're different events. I mean, it's I think it probably stems more from years ago. I was friends with a lot of people in the snowboarding industry. The snowboarding is my background, skateboarding. There was more support for grassroots events in snowboarding. Like the Rome pre-jib was a great event. Like that event was so awesome. It got, we would have 300 kids, 400 kids show up for a pre-jib. There was a lot more events like that, whereas the ski industry really didn't hold those events. And I'm still seeing it. There isn't a lot of grassroots traveling ski events. And shame on the ski industry for not doing that. Like, I hate to say that, but
Shots fired.
Yeah. Like it's, those events are what are bringing kids to the mountain and growing the sport. Like Trans World Trans Am's a great event. I mean, there's so many of those little events that are just the Burton qualifier, or, the Burton, what do they call it now? Burton qualifiers. Mm-hmm. Like, those like grassroots events where they travel around from resort to resort, where kids can like go to the resort on a Saturday and win, or, who cares? Take 15th, but just like be stoked and walk away with a pair of goggles or gloves or something. I love those little events. So I think we threw a lot of snowboard events because the snowboarding industry was a little bit more involved on that level. I definitely took a lot of slack from our skiers as being like favoriting snowboarding because we did a lot of those events, and that had nothing to do with it. Cause I really don't have anything against, we're all like sliding down a mountain on something strapped to our feet. Like it really doesn't matter if you ski or snowboard. I have a split board, so technically I ski now too. Yeah. But it's just, there isn't a lot of those events. Like Line did a good one. Line did the traveling circus where, that was a really cool event. There just isn't a lot of those like grassroots events. I mean, our first pro rider at this mountain is Tom Wallish. Yeah. Like,
didn't he break a world record here?
He did. Mm-hmm. He did the longest rail slide. I can't remember.
It was like 420 feet or something, wasn't it?
It was long.
Yeah, it was 400 and some feet.
Yeah. I mean, we were like...
420 sounds like the right number.
For skiing.
I think I
Did you
might
let
have...
that open to the public?
No.
No, we did.
Well, why not?
We've built so much stuff out of that rail though. It's really cool. Like they left that rail for us and we've chopped it apart and we're like Joe Genovese, our park manager now, is like super creative, awesome guy. I mean, he like built this box where he literally cut the rail into like 12-foot wide sections and put them all on a box top. So like you're gonna like firecracker it kind of.
Nice.
And you
I
look
already been in the sea box.
like, and you look at that and it's like no terrain park in North America would waste the amount of steel pipe that it took to build that. But we just happened to have 500 feet of 4-inch steel pipe laying around.
Joe, by the way, I saw him this past weekend at the Motown Throwdown in West Virginia. When it was breakdown time, I think he might have had a drill in each hand, and he was moving 2 to 3 times as fast as, no disrespect to anyone else helping out, I'm sure it was a hard event, but he was taking down sections in the time that other guys were still kind of figuring out like how the batteries worked in their drills.
Yeah.
The speed at which he was working blew my mind.
That event used to be so sketchy, like they like had bags of ice for the lip, and then when Seven Springs started like building it, it was like, oh, okay, it's actually like you're not gonna collapse, or the thing isn't gonna collapse.
AJ, do you remember whenever they bought that? They bought a feature from some other resort.
From Mountain Creek.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say it, but so
from some other resort
in
New Jersey.
They bought this.
I don't think it's called Mountain Creek anymore. So
they bought this like used staircase. I don't know who bought it. I don't know the story behind it, but I just remember like going to that event. I'm like, this is such an awesome event. Like, why aren't we involved in this? Like there's no reason why we shouldn't run this event. Like, but geez, like, it was a 25 stair staircase with a box on one side and a rail on the other side. And they had scaffolding built behind it. So it was like, if you jumped on that rail and went off the far side of it, like you were falling 25 feet flat to concrete. Like there was just
into the crowd.
Yeah, into the crowd typically.
It was so sketchy. It was like terrifying.
Yeah, like the whole structure shook whenever you walked on it. Like,
yeah,
it's a really good event, but I'm glad that we got involved in it. And I think the setups, like the stuff that Joe did the last 2 years is like, I mean, Joe just kind of took it to the next level. Like I thought what I did 4 or 5 years ago was awesome, but like I look at what Joe's doing now, I'm like, man, like you're really going for it. Like,
well, I already committed to him for next year to come. I'd schedule my daughter's birthday around the Motown Throwdowns and come actually help him build stuff. And he's like, well, next year is going to be bigger and better, right? And I'm like, I'm in, man. I'll come pound some nails, whatever.
Yeah, Joe's such an awesome guy. Like, we're so fortunate to have him here. Mm-hmm. He's a really talented builder. He's been in the industry forever. And like you said, the guy just puts his head down and works. Like, no one works harder than Joe. Well, I should say that, but I don't want to offend anyone else. But like, no, Joe's awesome. I'm really fortunate.
I know he doesn't sleep much in the wintertime.
He does not.
So we'll ask one final question here in closing. And
is Jon Kramer going to ride more than 4 hours a day this year?
Paul,
they're 4 action-packed hours.
Yeah. We need 8, man. We need 8. We're not 90.
I'd be happy with 4 hours a day if it happened like once every week.
That's right.
I think there was 4 hours total this winter.
It's quality, not quantity.
Sorry, everybody. That was the second to last question.
No, don't be sorry. I love the element of hate that Paul brings. So from the point of view of like a kid wanting to get into the industry and, we're sitting where you're sitting now eventually, or be a head builder on a park team, what advice would you give that kid?
Man, that's a good question. It's tough. Don't do it.
Don't go to construction either.
Yeah. No, obviously I'm just joking. I mean, it just comes down to like, if you're passionate about it and you have the work and the work ethic, I mean, you can't not want to work. It's building park is so much like building it is so much like construction. If you just want to build park, like, learn transition, like learn skateboarding, work in some type of construction trade and figure out what it is to actually build something. Cause so much of that goes into building park. Is managing park and like running a park. That's just a little portion of it. There's so much like management, business, marketing that goes into it. It's, whenever I was directly over all the terrain parks, just specifically that, I looked at it as basically I ran this little ski resort inside of a ski resort. Like, I did the marketing, I ran the events, I set up the events, I made our snow, ran our snowcats, like we did everything. We ran a little resort inside the resort. So there's a lot that goes into it. I don't know.
I think you got to.
Don't be afraid to work.
Yeah, don't be afraid to dip into different sides of it. I mean, you've worked in rental shops, you've worked in a retail shop, you've worked on the park crew, you've gone to some HR trainings, and I think you just have to be good with people. You have to be knowledgeable at what you're doing, and like you said,
passionate.
Overall, be passionate about what you're doing. Don't do it for the money.
Yeah.
Do it because you like doing it, and you can get by with what you're getting paid and make it work. Yeah.
Yeah, skill set and experience. Those are two things nobody can take away from you.
Yeah.
If you're good at something and you've done it long enough, eventually someone's going to need you to do it, hopefully. And
I did this for a long time and didn't make any money.
Well, we were talking earlier.
None of us are rich still, but I made minimum wage and worked harder than anybody else.
We were talking earlier about Gunny
for a long time.
Snowpark Technologies. When he was doing Snow Summits Park, he was probably making not much more than minimum wage. Now he's got a successful company, and it's all because he had passion for what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't in it for the money. He's still not in it for the money.
Yeah.
He's passionate about what he does, and he's good at it. So, yeah.
That's an awesome answer. I think Paul gushed enough early on about how fucking awesome Seven Springs is and what it means to us. And I echo all those comments, and I thank you for what you do here. It's super important to me personally, but super important to everyone really within I would say a 10-hour radius of here. Mm-hmm. If you're that close, you should come here.
Awesome. Thank you, man. That's why we do it. We do it because we love doing it, but we do it so that to make everybody happy and make people want to come here. Like, there's a lot of pride in everybody that works at this resort, especially in the train park, but every department, because every department really touches that area. There's a lot of pride and we want to have the best parks because we want our guests to come here and leave saying basically, what Paul said earlier, like, mm-hmm. I can't believe this park is in Pennsylvania, let alone on the East Coast.
Yeah.
For us to have the only 22-foot pipe last year on the East Coast, like in a bad snow year, like that's huge. And not only the only 22, but probably one of the better 22-foot pipes in the country.
Absolutely.
And the cool thing about this area is that, if you're coming, let's say from 10, 12 hours away or something, or even if you're coming, let's say from up north, Vermont, you're making an 8-hour drive down here. If you stayed here for 3 or 4 days, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to experience every type of East Coast weather in those 4 days. You're going to have a bluebird sunny day that's 40 degrees. The next day is going to be 40 below, windy and crazy. The next day you might get a foot or two of snow. So when you come here, you have to come for a few days to kind of get the whole experience. And aside from the amazing terrain and riding and hotel and all the activities to do, the party scene's amazing. The Foggy Goggle Bar, awesome. You got the streets right next to it. You can sit there on the deck, watch a beer, and watch people ride the streets. Yeah, it's a really good scene.
Yeah, it's a I've been to a lot of resorts, and this is a really cool resort. If you're staying here, you pull in, you park your car at the hotel, and you're done. You never go back to your car. We kind of jokingly dubbed it the cruise ship.
Yeah,
Because it's like, you know, you pull your car up at the dock, man, you check into the hotel, and it's like you're done. Like, you never go back to your car. Like, you don't worry about it. Like, you grab your board in the morning, you go ride, you stop at breakfast on the way there, and then you go back for lunch to another restaurant. I mean, there's multiple restaurants, and it's like
Very
then the evening
family.
there's multiple bars, there's bowling alley, arcades.
Yep.
Like, there's so much for every age group and every age demographic to do that it's like, it literally is kind of like a cruise ship.
Yeah, and it's very family friendly. I mean, the whole place, there's stuff to do for everybody. Like you were saying, arcades, bowling alley. You could bring the whole family and have a good time. Or you could be a degenerate snowboarder and come and have a good time.
I think that's a good spot to end it. I think we did it.
Awesome.
So Kramer showed up because he heard that we were going to shoot guns after the podcast, and I thought that was a joke, but it turns out that I was completely wrong. There are a couple of clips of us shooting nearly automatic weapons posted in the show notes to this episode. Remember to hit me up if you want to come to TNSP Camp. I can't wait for that event. It's going to be a really fun one. And as always, thank you so much for supporting our sponsors, for using the Amazon banner ad before shopping on Amazon, and sharing the podcast with a friend. The next episode will be with Ted Borland. Until then, peace.